Hello, and thank you for watching this ag forecast for the Canadian Prairie. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with the Nutrien Ag Solutions. As we talk about the story across the prairie over the next week, we're going to be shifting patterns here, one that features a ridge in the west and a trough digging in across the east. So, looking at cool shots of air across the eastern prairie with a chance for a frost late in the week, mostly dry and at times warmer conditions across the west, and then heavy coastal precipitation expected across British Columbia. Now, as we look at the satellite picture here, it's a beautiful day for harvest across the Canadian prairie. Looks like sunny, breezy at times across the prairie, but that is good to help out with the drying there. So, a really pleasant day. We are going to be transitioning to a bit of an unsettled pattern as we head into the weekend and early next week, but one that I don't think is going to bring a lot in the way of soaking rains, too. So, perhaps just a bump in the road along the way. As we look at our temperatures across the region, warmer in the east, cooler in the west. Now, that's going to be changing as we head into next week. 15 degrees in Winnipeg this morning, and then you trail off into the single digits as you head back across central and southern portions of Alberta. As we look at the high resolution NAM model just to get started, again, clear conditions across the prairie for our Friday. We'll start to see some cloudiness and maybe a few raindrops increasing from west to east as we go into the overnight. But this next wave that's emerging here overnight into the day on Saturday is going to be very moisture starved on the heels of this one right here. You can imagine we've got all this cool, drier air coming in here, dry conditions leading to the beautiful cloud-free sunny skies across the prairie today. So as this system comes marching in right over the Rockies overnight into Saturday morning, it's running into a very dry air mass. So a little bit of light rain possible, kind of along Highway 16 on the north side of this. It's a pair of waves, really. You can see one right there, and then the other one coming in here across the left. So a little bit of rain possible, generally along north of Highway 16. Maybe some a good shower moving across southern Manitoba into Sunday morning. Really going to be dealing with much more in the way of just cloudiness here in unsettled looking skies here versus actually getting soaking rains. So I've slowly clicked all the way into Sunday night now, and then taking it into sunrise on Monday morning, mid-afternoon on Monday, and then sunset on Monday. We'll have our next wave making its way up and over the top of the ridge, bringing precipitation to areas generally north of Highway 16 again, but maybe a shower possible down near Winnipeg on Monday evening. But again, this pattern is going to be more active and more unsettled than actual bite, as it brings generally very light precipitation to the area. Now, I mentioned breezy conditions possible at times, especially across southern Alberta, across the Front Range here. We got a wind warning in effect there, as winds could gust up to 70 kilometers per hour as we head through the afternoon and evening hours today, and then flaring back up as we get into the afternoon tomorrow. Now, Saturday afternoon and evening, we could see those winds gusting between 50 and 70 kilometers per hour from central and southern Saskatchewan, and then pushing down into southwestern Manitoba as we get into Saturday night. So again, just as each one of these little waves comes swinging through the prairie, it's going to be a pattern kind of like we would see in the winter with these clippers coming through. It's these little systems coming up and over the top of the ridge, bringing unsettled conditions, clouds, a chance for light precip, and some breezy conditions with them. Now, here's what's doing all of this. It's this big jet extension across the Pacific, this big core of extremely strong jet stream winds that is making its way ashore across the Pacific Northwest and British Columbia. We've got this wave moving in here the weekend that's going to bring the chance for the very light precipitation along and generally north of Highway 16. And then we just continue this kind of parade of troughs through the area. As we head into the weekend, we're going to start carving out this big trough across the central U.S. This one comes swinging up and over the top of the ridge and just digs it in again. So as we head into the weekend, into early next week, transitioning to a pattern that will start to warm us up across the west and British Columbia especially, but then start to shoot some cool air down into the prairie. So we're looking now at the precipitable water plot here. We're looking at the moisture depth within the atmosphere. And again, this illustrates that point well with the system tonight into tomorrow coming into a moisture-starved environment. So here's what we've got. This front right there, a bunch of dry air coming in across the prairie. Sunny, cloud-free skies today. Great day for harvest. This next wave makes its way over the top of the Rockies tonight into tomorrow. Doesn't have any moisture to work with, though, so again, just a few raindrops possible in the Highway 16 corridor. More dry air comes in on the heels of that one, so that when we get our next wave that comes in here Sunday night into Monday, this one goes north of the Prairie for the most part. Again, running into a very moisture-starved air mass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit play on this, and you'll see the pattern as we get into next week with these systems coming up and over the top of the ridge and then dropping down into the northern plains of the U.S. A very clipper-like pattern here that, again, is going to keep us unsettled, keep bringing shots of cool air in, especially in the east, but is not going to bring much in the way of heavy precipitation. So bumps in the road, but generally I think harvest will be able to keep going even as we deal with this. So here's the precip forecast then. Today, dry. Tonight we'll see some light showers along the Highway 16 corridor. Those could linger into Sunday morning. And then on the backside of this next big wave, we're going to be generally dry. That precip goes up through northern Saskatchewan, northern and maybe central Manitoba on Monday night into Tuesday morning. But then keeping things dry Tuesday all the way into Wednesday now. Maybe some cool, cloudy, and dreary conditions here across the eastern Prairie as we get into later next week. So conditions do deteriorate as we head deeper into the week across the east. Not in the form of soaking rains, but in the form of cool, cloudy, and kind of showery days as we get later into the week across the east. So here is your total precipitation between now and Monday evening. Again, generally light, driest in this corridor across southern Manitoba into southwestern Saskatchewan. North of that line, we're still talking about anywhere from 5 to 10, maybe a locally higher amount, around 15 millimeters of precipitation. So opportunities for moisture here, but keeping it pretty light in nature. We're looking to the overnight lows currently forecast pretty far out there for Thursday and Friday morning. Looking at the chance of temperatures kind of hovering around freezing here across the east. So as we get into next week, we'll talk about the risk of some frost, but right now it looks like those freezing temperatures would hold off to the other side of Wednesday at the very least. So here's a look at your 10-day outlook then as we wrap the video up. Calgary will be warming back up into the low 20s as we get to the other side of the weekend. Edmonton, you'll be bouncing around just a bit, so there is that day-to-day variability we'll get with this active pattern. Highs bouncing around between 15 to 20 degrees there as we wrap up the weekend and head into next week. Now, as we head off to the east, things are going to be a bit cooler. Temperatures between 13 to 17 for the afternoon highs in Saskatoon. Regina, very similar, and then Winnipeg cooling off even more, potentially seeing that high temperature barely getting out of the single digits as we get into late next week. Of course, this is when I'm thinking that the coldest air will set up here across the Prairie with this particular pattern as we get into the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday time frame, and that is when we would also be talking about the potential for some near freezing temperatures. Hope you have a great Friday, a wonderful weekend. Good luck with the harvest if you're continuing to roll. Again, I think it'll be great conditions for harvest across especially southern Alberta, southwestern Saskatchewan, where we stay a bit drier, but elsewhere, until we get to at least Wednesday of next week in the east and shift to a cool, cloudy, and dreary pattern, I think there will be opportunities to keep the harvest rolling.